Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to have a great conversation with our dear friend and well-known lighting designer, Michelle Poley, on how broadcasts are lit. So thank you for joining us, Michelle. And to give everyone a little bit of background on Michelle, Michelle is a 5-time Emmy-nominated, 3-time Emmy-winning lighting designer and director with over 40 years of professional lighting experience in the motion picture, photographic, and visual work that she does. In addition to her Emmy wins, she's won a Peabody Award and numerous film festival awards. Most recently, Michelle was the CNN's Washington Director of Lighting, and she created a bunch of first design groups outside of Atlanta. For 20 years, she managed the daily programming for CNN and some of the largest productions that include, huge presidential debates, town halls, and special event programming. She's developed some new theater, theme parks. Some of the people that she's worked with over the years include some of the network credits like ABC, BBC, CBS, and a handful more.
Gosh, I'd hire that person.
No, I mean, great amount of experience, and you put a lot of great hard work in. So what have you been working on lately? And, that was a little bit of look into your past.
Yeah.
Tell us what you've been doing lately.
Well, since 2019, started my own company. The company's called LightCue. We're still based in Washington, D.C. Our clients have expanded. I do CBS News, Fox Sports. We've done NPR's studios, their podcasting spaces, some sports teams that I can't mention. Oh, and some local market stuff. So our portfolio from design work for live broadcast to building studios is kind of our main bread and butter right now.
Awesome. And for those that are looking to get into lighting or design work, can you just tell us what does a lighting designer actually do?
Well, the obvious answer is we light the show. But if you kind of break it down, you asked me about this earlier, and I was like, well, we are collaborators. Our job is to make the director's vision, the production designer's vision look amazing on camera, make our talent look great on camera. Our job is to work as a miracle worker when it comes to budgets. We have to be technically savvy, both in the science of light and the technology of lighting. So we wear a lot of hats, but the idea is that we're sort of I would like to say, the glue on the image to really make that vision come through.
Yeah, I mean, it's interdisciplinary. There's a lot of, not only on the technical side, you got to learn to work with people, right? So, when a client comes to you, or, one of these networks are looking to light a stage or something like that, how do you approach a new space for the first time?
Well, for a studio, I've actually had executives when I was in corporate television that would come to me at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and say, hey, we want to build a studio. How much would it cost? My original answer would be $2 million. And they said, $2 million? And I'm like, yeah, you've asked me to build you a car, but you haven't told me what kind of car you want me to build. So usually what we do is we'll start out with an idea of budget, an idea of scope. We will look at what are we trying to do, what the set looks like. If it's a remote interview, obviously we want to see the location. What are the challenges of that location? And then make a plan that everybody can agree to.
And oftentimes, how many cameras you're working with?
How many cameras? On a huge event like a presidential debate, there might be 18 cameras on the shoot. Maybe a Larry King interview at the Pentagon would have been 3 cameras. So obviously all of that goes into the scope and scale of your production and the amount of gear that you are leading.
So working with so many cameras, what's the secret to making multi-camera shots match?
Well, the narcissistic answer would be that you need to own the entire image, but that's not the reality. The real reality is you need to work really closely with the vision team. That's your video engineering shading team. I feel it's really important to be a person who understands the camera, understands the shots, the experience to understand where those shots may end up and what visually might be behind them, what will be the challenges of the room. Is it going to be in an entertainment show? Are we going to deal with atmosphere? Are we going to deal with flares? So all of that goes into consideration.
Maybe we could talk about a little bit about, how has broadcast lighting become more cinematic?
Well, the whole industry's become more cinematic. Obviously, we have moved from tubes, old sensor technology, to more cinematic cameras. You're seeing a lot of even the networks now, the news networks are shooting with cinema cameras versus the broadcast style cameras. That means, from a lighting standpoint, that means that the light levels are different, how we deal with shutter, how we deal with color, how do we deal with compression management, and how does that look when we design a show. All of that has changed. But it's also the tools have gotten better, and that's really helped our job. We can use less lighting. We can get away with things that we never were able to get away with years ago. I was watching Coachella, and the fact that we can do an entire show with strobes and red light. And back in the day when I started in television, I was working with old Icky 79s, and if you didn't have any white light, the detail circuit would turn itself off. The the tools have gotten so much better that the creative part has exploded.
Lighting with color has become, so easy now.
It's the norm now,
yeah,
isn't it? That we can, especially in the variety shows, just the way we treat lighting. We don't have to follow the same rules we used to, even 5 years ago.
Awesome. And with that, you need great lighting, right? So
Absolutely.
what sets broadcast lighting apart? What makes broadcast lighting great?
Well, broadcast lighting, apart from, say, concert, film, or theater, is there's the live aspect of it, which is, theater folks can, of course, relate to that. We're different than film because we really can't make mistakes. It's zero error ball, if you will. So the systems have to be robust. The ability to adapt has to be there. The systems have to be able to be repeatable. And in smaller markets, it's a huge challenge because a lot of times we design a show and then walk away and then have to trust that the system's going to be consistently repeated.
Sometimes I don't think people connect that broadcast lighting, that you're telling a story with that light. And maybe we could talk a little bit towards that about how your lighting helps tell that story.
Well, that's a great question because in entertainment television, obviously if we're lighting songs, if we're lighting a variety show, if we're lighting a drama, we're approaching that more from a cinematic standpoint. Obviously, we're telling a mood. In television news, we're reinforcing the story that's being told. So my job as a lighting designer is to get the viewer to stop clicking the remote for a second, to take a look what's happening on set and on camera, and to be engaged, to really reinforce the narrative that's being told. A great example would be when we did The Lead with Jake Tapper, and even early on when we did The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer, we started adding color elements to the background to sort of reinforce the story. So for instance, on Jake Tapper, green meant a money segment, yellow meant a lifestyle segment, orange was a sports, and red was broad. So it allowed the viewer to understand what was going on, even if the volume is down. And I think that's part of our job, is to reinforce the visuals, to be able to let the storytellers do their job. With the advent of LED technology, we've been able to make a lot better decisions and have a lot more flexibility.
What are some of the biggest mistakes in broadcast lighting people are making it, but they don't realize they're even doing it?
One is taking lighting, I think, for granted. I see this in local market more than I see it in a lot of the network side, is that a station group will invest a lot of money in a set, but they won't invest the same amount of lighting or care in the way that they light a show. You're spending $400 million on new scenery, but you were going to use lighting technology that is 15, 20 years old. So that's, I think, a mistake. I think that the fresh looks catch viewers. And I think that we as creative people really need to tell a story. We need to get in front of the right people who can make those decisions. And honestly, I think that we need to get into the conversation sooner, because after all, we're trying to create eventually what ends up as their signature look. And it's up to us to help them create that.
And what's a recent lighting challenge that you are particularly proud of solving?
A recent challenge, and I have to speak very generically about this, but I had a dear friend of mine who is an amazing lighting designer who works out of Nashville. He's working with a content provider that builds beautiful spaces, and he did all of this work to create these performance spaces that you can never use. It's fine finishes, it's beautiful, the ceiling is hiding all of his lights, and the client wanted to add an additional position on the sofa over in the corner. So they needed a lighting position that didn't look like television lighting. He came to me because he knows I like weird stuff to solve problems. It's just right up my alley. So his original idea was to take sort of a dome and shoot some lights into it. And so we basically took that idea. I worked with a manufacturing company that I worked with when I was at CNN, who I love, the Voice Product Group. And we came up with this chandelier. Basically comes down to a certain position. We used your tape light from LightCue, the high output tape light, gorgeous. And we built this ring of tape light that has 12 channels that we can turn on and off. And yeah, it was really successful. He was really happy. The client was really happy. And I got to nerd out with, a nice budget and really some amazing people.
And I think you touched on it. It sounds like that's one of the benefits of how LED lighting has helped improve modern broadcast, where you're able to make fixtures that look like they're part of the design, your subject.
Yeah, I mean, LED technology has really changed the way we think about television, how we do news, how we are able to make choices within studios, within churches, within schools. A light can be multi-use now. And you can make instant changes, color changes. The biggest change, of course, in broadcast lighting was the ability to not use tungsten only. Our ability to match LED walls, to change frequency rates on our fixtures, the ability to change the mood without having noise, color scrollers or gel changes. Movers are an important part of even broadcast news these days. And along with the third and fourth generation color engines that are coming out, the white light that's coming out is so much better than it was just a few years ago.
It's moving quickly these days. And one of the other things that, as it moves quickly and you're evaluating news sources and stuff like that, what metrics actually matter when you're evaluating a light source?
Well, from a visual standpoint, in the old days we used CRI. Now we're using TM30. Now I think it's now TM3020 is what we're using now.
Can you tell us what that is?
So that is an IES standard that was developed probably around 2015 that basically took the CRI, which was 8 samples, and now we use 99 samples. So we're getting more data, and you basically are looking at a circle, and that circle is looking at color fidelity, and that's the quality of the light onto the sample, and then color gaunt, which is the saturation level. So that's the difference between the light hitting the sample and does it appear more saturated or less saturated. So we really are getting more data. And then you look at the graph output, and if there's bulges on it at a particular value, you can then evaluate the color of that light. But we look at that, but also it comes down to me seeing the light itself, seeing it on somebody's face, and Ideally, I'd love to see the talent in position or to do some color tests, because the undertone color of their skin is important to evaluate the light. The good news is, and I kind of have to brag a little bit about you guys, your color engines are just spectacular. So they work under a lot of different people, and I had the opportunity to test them under a few things. And you didn't prompt me to say this, but I will tell you that it's amazing, and that
The team works really hard.
it worked really hard, and it
best
shows.
quality, yeah.
They're beautiful, and the ability to make small, minute changes is really great.
Awesome. It's really great to hear, and it's, I think, valuable to hear for someone that's sees all these different reports and metrics that, there's a good handful that they can use in their back pocket when evaluating the variety of options available.
End of the day, though, it is your eye. It's your eye being able to use a camera to make some judgment decisions and experience. The more you're dealing with stuff, recognizing good lighting too.
What do you think is next for broadcast lighting? Is it wireless control? Is it different control protocols, the color engines themselves,
Yes,
virtual?
all of it. So wireless is really important in film, understandably so, to make a lot of changes. We're a little shy of wireless in broadcast, live broadcast especially. It's used, but we approach it with caution, understandably. Color science is only getting better, and we're really happy with the color science and the ability to use consistent fixtures. That's the probably the headline. We're using on this set here, we're using an ellipsoidal, we're using a soft light, we're using a small solo edge, and the color science really matches nicely. I remember the old days, I would have a batch of Italian uplights show up on a debate that I was doing in Jacksonville, Florida, and different batches of LED produced different colors on the wall. So I had to swap everything out for old park cans back in the day. So the color, the quality of light, some of the technology, the software, being able to control a lot of internal options within the light from the desk. GDTF is a huge part of that.
Can you tell us what GDTF is?
GDTF is a sort of an open source protocol for taking a fixture from the draftsman's drawing all the way into the console. So it is a generic profile. So everybody has different profiles, and you usually have to go to a library, or you go to your console and you had to find a library of fixtures. The idea now is that the industry is going to standardize those profiles, and that's GDTF. There's other things called MVR, which is my virtual rig, so we can take that stuff into pre-visualization. So all of that is tied together.
So I think you're kind of leading into one of my last questions for you, which is, with the changes of the industry, what skills matter most that maybe wasn't essential just even a couple of years ago? You're touching on previs,
the deliverables, what the client is wanting to see. If you're trying to convince a client to spend $40,000 to $100,000 on a 1 hour of television, hopefully, you want to be able to show them what that's going to look like through 3D models, deliverables, the paperwork, the vision, so everybody can see what the show's going to look like. That also has to do with the time that you're allowed on stage is very limited these days. So we spend a lot of time in previs to set cues, get the base file in, get the patch in, get the show semi-focused, work on effects, especially in songs. Pre-visualization these days is a huge part of large-scale TV.
Any other skills that you could recommend or that you think are essential now that weren't?
You've got some huge challenges within AI in the entire broadcast and cinema markets, but from a lighting standpoint, understanding some of the virtual engines, Unreal Engine, Assimilate, understanding those tools, being able to light in a virtual space is a great skill set to look at.
Programming?
I started as a programmer long ago, and to keep up with some of the newer tools that is coming down the line. And what's really cool about some of the new software and the new programs is the cost of entry has gotten so much better. You can download a lot of software for free, like the Kansas boards, AVO, MA. You can download the software, and they all have visualizers in them. So the democracy, the barrier to entry for kids these days, I feel like I'm 80. I wish I had that when I was, touching my first consoles.
It sounds like a lot of times you're teaching yourself. So how do you stay relevant in terms of your skill set or get new information? I guess what are some resources that you would suggest to a lighting designer to keep your skills up to date?
Obviously, what everybody is doing these days is we go to websites. I hammer on manufacturers all the time to keep their websites filled with data. Provide symbols, provide training materials online for folks. I'm a huge believer in online learning. Apprentice with somebody is a huge thing, if you can. And then, social media has got some really good look and learn programming out there. YouTube is a huge resource for some folks. And then start working with somebody, work in a shop. Huge. I would rather hire somebody who had 8 years of experience in a shop than who just graduated, who never worked in a shop and had a master's degree. Everything is important. Learning the concepts, learning everything, but learning the gear and how it works and how it sets off, it's huge.
And if there's any information you want people to come to follow you or to...
LightCue.com is my website. I think LightCue Design is the Instagram. So yeah.
Awesome.